everyone. My name is Denise Hughes, and I'm the Senior Director of Programming for the Angelika New York, and I'm the curator for Angelika Anywhere. Today, we are joined by a lot of people to talk about Young Hearts that premieres today at Angelika Anywhere. So without further ado, I'm going to read all these names. So we have Sarah and Zachary Sherman. You can say hi.
Hi.
There you go. They're the directors. We also have Anjini Azhar, who's the lead actor. Then we have Elise, Freeman, producer. And then we have Mark Duplass, who's executive producer of the film.
Hi, guys.
So welcome, everyone. And then fun fact, we were just talking about Mark's first and second film opened at the Angelika Film Center in New York. And just a plug in here, we have his second film, Jeff Who Lives at Home, available on the platform if you want to check it out. It's in the Vault section. But so welcome, everyone, to the Q&A.
Thanks for having us.
So first of all, let me congratulate you for this great, cute and nice and sweet film about, about first love. And it's like so honest how it depicts the awkwardness of falling in love for the first time. It really hit me. It just took me like 5 years ago or so when I was a teenager. But about it really made me, remember how I felt when I was a teenager, and I really appreciate that. It was really nice. So congratulations on that. So I want to start from the beginning. So Sarah and Zachary, can you tell me a little bit where the story comes from? How did you, what it inspired you to write this story?
Yeah, I'm trying to think back. I think when I wrote this, I have 2 kids now, and I had one then who was like a toddler. And I remember taking her to the park all the time in my neighborhood, and running into the same kids, the same little families, the same little toddlers all the time. And I don't know, I just started thinking about what it's like to grow up with somebody, and more so what it's like for your relationship to evolve with a friend or a neighbor as you get older. We went to really small schools growing up, and so we were always growing up with the same families, and thinking of how you viewed a classmate or a friend or whatever in 10th grade versus the way you viewed them in 4th grade. I don't know, something about it just kind of intrigued me, I guess. There was kind of a lot that went into it, but I have a lot of teenagers that live on the block that I live on, and I don't know, I've always been really curious about teenagers. I think Zach and I were just really hungry to finally make something, literally. And I kind of pitched him this idea of what if it was something about teenagers, something super small, and we could just get some awesome teenage actors. And I didn't really know what the story would be, but I think we both knew we wanted it to be really simple. And rather than this wild plot, it to be really just about the kind of moment to moment kind of interactions of teenagers, because I think we could probably all agree when we were that age, every little interaction felt so critical, and oh, we just had this weird exchange about homework, I love him, or whatever. And we look back at it now in such a different way. But I really wanted to make something that would give kind of a little love to that, rather than the way now as a 30-something-year-old I kind of mock it, but it was really special and vital at the time. And so I think the easiest kind of plot that came to us was what if these 2 little teenagers kind of fall in love, and then that goes away, and very simple. So that's a kind of blah of just a lot of things that were kind of going on in my head. But the biggest kind of underlying or overarching context was Zach and I having spent many years in LA trying to get things made, and you can guess how that goes, And finally I had moved back to Portland to have a kid. And I think I was really freaked out by like doing that without having any sort of a career and wanting a career. And so we were like, we have to make something. We just have to, like almost from a place of panic, to be honest. And this is what we made. So.
Well, it's very good. So congratulations. So it's good.
Thanks so much.
And the other thing that struck me is that besides the main relationship between I'm forgetting the two names of Quinn and Tilly, like besides that, it's also a film about many types of relationships between like the best friends, adoptive parents and daughter and sons and siblings in school. So, and I like the way that you guys balance it out. It doesn't feel like it's like heavy on one thing. It's like very even out, so you don't get burned out. So can you tell us a little bit more of how you structure that, how you decided on how many stories you were going to tell without being, going overboard or like, or just getting off course, right, if you will?
It's the most uninteresting answer, but I thought nothing of it, and I just wrote something, and this is what it was. I'm working on a new project right now where I've been like reading the books about how to structure a screenplay. Like I'm like, I need to learn these things, and it just makes me laugh so much that like I wrote one draft. Enough people were like, we'll make this with you, and we made it off of that one draft. And I don't mean to say that's how it should always be. Like I have a lot of self-consciousness about certain aspects of the film at this point, but I really I didn't think a lot about any of that, and that's such I just appreciate the way you perceive it in that way, but I can't really take credit for it. One thing I will say is to its detriment a bit, I think we had to create a little bit more conflict in post-production than was actually on the page a bit, and that I think is to the detriment of just sort of like vomiting out a screenplay and being like, let's shoot it, I think particularly the conflict of the brother relationship was something that we realized had been on the page, but we didn't necessarily, anyway, we just in editing had to kind of amp that up a little bit. And I think we were able to do it in a way that we were happy enough with. But yeah, I didn't think a whole lot about it.
But I think it's kind of beautiful how that can work. Like when you're staying honest to this thing between these two characters, and you're simply dialed in to Tilly and Harper's experience. The rest just kind of takes care of itself. And I think that that resonated with you, Denise, in that way. And I just love that it can be that simple, that you can just zero in and go, and then it'll continue to do its thing. So
yeah, that was good. The other part that I also like is like the honest conversation about sexuality in the film. It's like it's nice to see other type of films that the one that we grew up watching in the 90s or 80s, where it's treated with respect and the characters have agency over, and consent over sexuality. So can you speak a little bit about that and how you decided, or how you thought about writing this story?
I feel like I'm gonna like stop talking at some point, but I'm here. I think the idea came from because it was really different than like what my experience was as a young person. And as a young person in high school, we also went to Catholic high school, so there's that. I was always really like quietly intrigued by the kids, the young people who were like having much more mature relationships seemingly than what I was. I was always like, I don't know, just curious. So I think from the get-go, I liked the idea of kind of implementing like young people who are choosing to have a sexual relationship at a kind of younger age, let's just say than I did, because I don't know, I wondered what went into that. And I guess me writing this was kind of an exploration of that. But then at the same time, I just felt really strongly kind of from the beginning that I I wanted Harper to have a lot of agency over her choices, and that not to be, well, I guess I should say, like, for that to be questioned by the people around her, but for her to like get that for herself. I definitely felt like it was important to kind of push back gently against the kind of notion of like purity culture and like, let's just say the patriarchy. So those were definitely a lot of conversations we were having early on with each other, with some other people involved. And there was a lot of like, should she have sex? Should she not? You know, and like, I didn't really have the language for it, but I just knew staunchly, I was like, she does, you know, like I felt really, really passionately about it. And which is kind of weird. But yeah, I don't know.
No, I appreciate it. It's a new, like, I like that now there's films that tell story about teenage sexuality in a different way, that The Breakfast Club, which is great, but it's a little problematic, you know, so it's, I appreciate that. So, thank you. So then let's talk about a little bit of the actors, which are great. It's like, this is a story that if you don't have the right performers, like it doesn't translate well, and this is great. So did you write the story, or did you think about the story with these actors in mind, or like, did you find them later?
You can start. Sarah was writing the film before we decided or thought who we would look to. I think she was halfway through writing, or had you finished it?
No, I was like halfway through.
She was halfway through when I first met Quinn, who ends up playing Tilly. Quinn and I were on a TV show that Anjini, who plays Harper, was on as well. And at that table read, I saw Quinn from across the room. And as you see in the movie, his instincts are so good. He's so sharp. He's just very fresh and alive. And that was apparent across the room during this table read for this Netflix show called Everything Sucks. And I came home and said, Sarah, you gotta meet this kid. I think he should be Tilly, you know, he's so freaking good. So then Quinn became on our radar. We waited until the script was done and then sent that off. Anj came quickly after. You know, Sarah had written a character that was Indian, that was adopted and lived in Southeast Portland with these parents. And everybody was saying, well, you may want to open it up to a more, you know, a wider description of a person to find this person. But we met Anj really quickly. Anj sent a tape. Both the kids really resonated with the script and said, this feels reflective of our experience. This feels really honest. And the both of them were it right away. Do you have anything to add?
I think too, when you first, like that summer when you were filming Everything Sucks, I think we sent half of the script to Quinn.
Oh, really?
And I think he was 13 or 14. And we're also like, does your mom need to read this? Like, hi, where are these siblings? And I think the first half of the script resonated with him, but and I think at the time it was the summer, and we were like, we had a teeny bit of money, like a couple $1,000, and we were like, we want to make this in October. Yeah. With $2,000.
You can stay in the basement. And are you cool with that?
And we were like, you know, we're not totally sure or whatever. There's also a chance we would wait a year to do it next fall. And he was like, this was something I just really loved about him. He was like, let's keep talking, but a part of me thinks it will be best until I wait until I'm the same age, until I'm actually 15, you know? And that is what we wound up doing. And then, you know, Anjini came on board, but it just kind of cracks me up, I guess, that we maybe sent like a 13-year-old or 14. I can't remember how old he was, but this.
But again, I think it's good to stress how talented these young actors are. Anjini, you're so freaking good, and like you're just alive in every moment. And Quinn is the same. And this movie stands up because of those performances. So I really appreciate you saying that, Denise. And I think we should always sing their praises, because we wouldn't have the movie without their, you know, talent and heart and soul. So Anjini, well done.
Anjini, tell us about your experience with the film. What, yeah, tell us a little bit about it, and how do you approach this role?
I mean, it was a brilliant experience. I think the best part about this role was how different I am from Harper. I always have a lot more fun immersing myself in a character I'm so vastly different from. So it was really exciting to be able to pull my experiences from high school, but also create new ones that I wish I had and did not. Harper was a lot more open and adventurous to all of these social boundaries than I was in high school. I had my own agenda. I don't know what I was doing. I don't think any of us knew what we were doing. But that was so much fun to play with, and it was so exciting bringing a character out that could vocalize so many things that people are fighting to vocalize now. And we have, Sarah, who was so lovely to put those words on the page, but it was a wonderful experience bringing on a person who could challenge things that we think about through the stories that we tell.
Yeah. No, and you're great in it. So like, thank you for doing that. It was great. So Elise, I want to jump a little bit onto production. So can you tell us how was, what your experience making this film, like this, like with a small budget, and tell us a little bit.
Yeah. Well, Zach and Sarah were incredible to work with. They have, they brought me so much production value just right off the back. I mean, we shot at Sarah's house for a part of it. All of Sarah's neighbors' homes were used. So yeah, it was definitely the true indie experience. But one thing that I'm really excited about and proud about as a producer is that when you're watching it, I don't think you see any sacrifices had to be made in any department, and that to me is everything, and that is huge. So yeah, but it was definitely the true low budget experience. Had favors from family and friends, and people donated soup that we ate at lunches every day.
That's awesome.
I forgot about that. We had a high school buddy who has a soup. His dad has a soup company, and we ate soup every day.
But it wasn't funny then. Like, we were like, and here's more soup, and people were like, really?
Anjini's like, I quit.
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
Yeah. I want to jump in and just sing Elise's praises for her, because we posted a Craigslist ad, as you do, and we had a few people respond, and we kind of gelled through email with Elise, and we met her in a coffee shop and realized we were all from Portland, and just kind of immediately clicked. But she handled so much on this movie. I mean, the only people we had on board were the two of us and Elise, and the two of us, I mean, we relied on her so much, and she did so much. And she said yes to so many things that so many people were saying no to, and that's why they didn't become our producer, saying you can't make a movie for this amount of money. Elise said, like, let's make a movie for this amount of money, and she has just done so much. So I really want to let you all know that.
That's so nice of you. Thank you. The other thing I will say is it was really important to me and to all of us that all of our crew got back end participation, because everyone was working for reduced rates, and we kind of all agreed on that right away before anything. And so we are really lucky because everyone gets to kind of celebrate and join in the success of it. So that means a lot to me too, and to Zach and Sarah, I know also.
Yeah, I just want to add that I love what Elise was saying, and I think it's important to communicate, because having come up as a young filmmaker, you just need to hear this. And I think Mark and you and your brother have said this for a long time, and it's so inspiring, where you don't have these resources, but you do have a friend with a camera. And Elise supported us to say, we can go for it. And we went for it at this, very, very just shoot. You have nothing, but you get there, and it doesn't translate at the end. So I just think that that's incredible that we can all circle up in the beginning, and then we're here, and it's doable. And that's something Mark's been singing forever, and I so appreciate that, because it just takes jumping, so jump away, young filmmakers, if anybody's, needs to hear that.
How many days was this?
I definitely.
Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just gonna add one little bit off of that. I think if there are other filmmakers there trying to figure out how to make it work, there are ways that you can structure, and get the fancy camera and get the fantastic DP, as long as you incentivize them properly and make them more of a partner in the back end. So that's just a little sort of, producery bit there, but it's definitely possible to, you don't have to cut every corner, just as long as you're willing to share and kind of do more of a co-op model.
So how many days was the shoot?
How many days was the shoot? Oh my gosh, this
15.
15, yeah.
15.
Gosh.
So 15
Yeah,
days
and
eating soup. Is that?
Yeah, it's so
I'm
much.
begging for a sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. And our cinematographer, Martin, is incredible, and I just want to give him a shout out. He had done some music videos for, like Haim and Alice in Wonderland, and he pretty much did handheld, the whole time. He and lent us his incredible cameras, and I really think that his style and his talent made huge impact, and so I'm really, really grateful to him.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask about that. It's like I love the cinematography, and I was going to ask if it was handheld the whole time, because it felt like the shakiness sometimes of the image, like it just got you into that mindset of these like kids and like the living every minute as if it's the last one, and how urgent everything seems. So it's like, I don't know who can talk about this, but the cinematography, it's I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and Elise is hitting it. Martin Vian is really, I mean, the guy's an artist. He's and setting him free feels like letting an actor go. And that's how I always feel about Martin. Let his talent fly, and it does. And his instincts are really great. There's a certain collaboration between the three of us, but there's also just trust and turning over to his brilliance. And Martin is amazing. I've worked with him before, and I hope to a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't do remotely anything along the lines of like storyboarding or anything like. And to be honest, it was a bit of a relief to have somebody that we really trusted to just be like, can you just kind of, like do your genius? And I mean, there was a lot of discussion and certainly collaboration, but it really was letting him kind of run free. And yeah, to your question, I'm pretty certain that literally every shot is handheld. He had it. I don't think we used. Yeah, I'm pretty sure and the poor guy by the end of the shoot, we're like, do you want to go get a massage? Because he's got this, crazy contraption on his back. But yeah.
But I think you're right. Just let the intimacy be its thing with Martin right there, along with Anjini and Quinn. It's great.
Yeah. Mark, can you tell us how did you come on board of this project, and what was it that like attract you, besides the fact that it's shot by siblings, I guess, like. But
yeah, I love the sibling duo thing. It's always great to support. This was a bit of an oddball one for us, in that we came along much later in the process. I'm a big fan of a crowdfunding site, and a just generally indie supporting site called Seed and Spark. And we do a lot of initiatives that try to reach out to support filmmakers outside of Los Angeles and New York, and support different kinds of stories told everywhere. And one of our initiatives is this thing we do called the Hometown Heroes campaign, where our company essentially lends money to productions at like a zero interest, zero equity loan, so that they can make their movies. And to Elise's point, because they're often making these, scrapping them together, we're not the type of investor who comes in and takes away all that back end. We let them share that back end with their cast and crew. And so we try to just use whatever we have to bolster that. So we came to this movie once it was pretty fully formed. When they applied for this sort of grant from us, they had shot their movie, and they needed all those funds to get it across the finish line. So they didn't really need as much of our creative support on the front end, and we were able to help them shape a little bit in post-production. But it was very fun to come aboard a project that clearly had found its footing and clearly had found its creative place already. And it was sort of our job to basically use the things at our disposal, which are, speaking candidly, like cash and our platform, you know, and I've been examining a lot, like, what do I have to offer right now as an established filmmaker? What do I have to offer right now as a white male inside of a patriarchal system? Like, what's the right move right now, you know? And anytime I can support a movie like this that's clearly made with love and passion and two nickels, I'm gonna want to try to do that. And I think what you're hearing on this Zoom today is, you know, something that I really believe in and I try to support a lot in young filmmakers. There is a sense of insecurity that I think filmmakers have about, if I haven't spent the requisite 3 to 5 years preparing to death on my movie, then maybe I'm not worthy of making my film. And I don't believe that's true. That's one way to make a movie. But I also believe that recklessly cascading into a film while you're still in love with it, before you've beaten it to death by writing 15 drafts, before someone tells you that you don't have enough money to make it, kind of like young love is. Let your innocence, your youth, and sometimes your ignorance of the form, which I used all throughout my 20s, bring you to brilliance and innovation. And I think what you guys did here is you moved while you were still in love, and what you sacrificed in preparation or in assets, you gained back in inspiration. And it shows in the film. And these are the kinds of things I love to be a part of, you know? And I think that everybody will look at this film, and you'll look back at this film 20 years from now and you'll say, did we make a perfect movie? No, but our movie is inspired and it's raw and it's true and it feels like us at that time. And I want to be on that side of a movie all day long, every day.
Yeah, and it feels very fresh too. I think that you can tell that it's very authentic. It's yeah. So talking about how's the dynamic, and this question is for Sarah and Zachary. How was the dynamic of directing between the two of you? Did you just have an input on everything, or like did you spread or like divided the task? How was the experience?
You know, I think we're metaphorically holding hands throughout it. We very much hold the thing together, do it in a way that we don't talk about, we don't divide stuff up, we just kind of act off instinct and move ahead from pre-production into shooting and beyond. And on those days when you're actually with the cameras and the actors, you just kind of walk through it, and you know, Sarah will say one thing and I'll say another. It's a very easy thing. We're lucky that we really get along with each other and share a similar vantage and taste. So it's kind of an unspoken thing that just works. It's not without squabbles, or it's not without people giving opposite directions at times and the actors going, what the fuck do we do? You know, but we
like often, like all day long. You know?
But Sarah, how does it feel for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're lucky in that, well, first I'm feeling the need to mention, we have another brother and I feel like we never talk about it. So like shout out to our older brother who helped with this film too. And we filmed in his house and stuff. Yep. But for the two of us, yeah, I think we're coming from a place that maybe not all siblings are, but we have very similar tastes. We have, I mean, probably because like Zach is my older brother and growing up, I looked up to him. So when he liked Forrest Gump, I liked Forrest Gump, you know, and like we kind of grew up together in terms of taste and perspective on acting and things like that. So we come from kind of like here. And then obviously we're different people and we have different everything else. But I do think at this point, like all of those years struggling in LA to like get our TV show made and things like have only helped us because we've like made little ramshackle things together enough that we can kind of like just be in a room and kind of figure out how to get things going. To your question, like, yeah, we never divvied anything up. We were both kind of present for every scene. I think there was one scene where I took my kids trick-or-treating for Halloween and I ducked out. And Zach was the only one there. But other than that, we're both kind of just like, when you first asked your question, I was like imagining like, it's sort of like holding hands, but like closing our eyes and like maybe like having like something over our heads and just being like, let's see what happens. Like, it is difficult sometimes because siblings are like it's like a horrible relationship sometimes, you know, you're so close to someone that you know, it can get tense. And I was also, I had a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old, a very colicky 5-month-old. So like when I think about this shoot, I think about like, I
Not
feel like
sleeping.
I was like an unhealthy, like in every sense of the word, like zombie, like, and there's no way I could have, you know, and this was like my baby, this was a script I had written that I felt so passionately about. And like without my brother there to like, to just like be there in so many ways, there's zero chance I could have, that this movie would have been what it was. So
We're so lucky to have that trust, and I think that's essential in storytelling and filmmaking. And it just makes me think, like, whether it's a sibling you're directing with, or you're directing yourself, or you're an actor, it's like this game for me is about trust and faith and opening up and being our honest person, you know, selves with each other. And when you're able to do that, I think like you're on to success. And so we just have an upper hand. I'm just grateful for Sarah because that's built in. So it's really nice.
Yeah, but you can tell also, like when you watch the film, like there's like one voice. Like it's not like you
Sure.
don't see like there's one voice, and you can see like you guys were connected. So you can. I don't
Yeah.
know if then you had to go to therapy and then after the experience, but it shows in the movie that at least like you got along there. The other thing that I really liked about the film is the music. It's so good. So can you talk about that?
yeah, that was such a fun part of it for us. We had an amazing music supervisor, Lauren Faye Levy, who's a friend of ours. She's done, yeah, I know, like she's incredible. She and I'm like complimenting her and being like, she and I share musical taste, but I love music, and like it's really fun talking music with her. She's worked for like, I think she did music on like Stranger Things, and she's just incredible. So it was super fun to kind of like get her little pool of music and then just to kind of start playing around. It's funny because like I don't think we had, if I think back to the script, I really don't think we had any. There was one song I had written into a script, which was a cover, and we had the artist that I wanted cover that song, but it was like a folk song. I don't think we had any ideas of like, let's make this like a buzzy little eclectic soundtrack, but it just was so fun very early in the film to be like, oh, let's just try this song here, you know, and kept going with it. Yeah, it was a great experience, and I just keep saying the word fun, but it was a lot of fun playing with music, and creating a vibe that wasn't there before, you know, that I think kind of enhances things. So,
and then finding ways to, in this DIY filmmaking setup, to find a way to, you know, through Mark's help and Seed and Spark, what we were given with, you know, getting Mark on board, opened up a little bit of funds to, you know, get some of that music. But there's still ways, and Elise, you know, when Sarah and I walked through this together of just, and Mark's probably went through it in the past, of just like these heartfelt letters to these artists and to their representatives on the label, and the, you know, where you just plead and they say yes, you know. It's amazing. So and then that becomes what, you know, you heard. So it's awesome.
They said yes to you because your movie is good. I have a lot of experience of them saying no. Just so you're aware.
Well, thanks.
Are you guys releasing the soundtrack separately? Did you think about doing that?
I don't know. It's something I'm sure if people were interested, there's ways to do that.
I'm interested.
Okay.
we can make a playlist. We'll send it to you.
I really liked it. Yeah, it's good. So the other question for all of you is like, what is like one like maybe like takeaway, or what you want like people to, the one takeaway that you want people to come up with after watching this film, if all of you can, or each of you can tell us.
I mean, for me, it's I'm saying the same thing over and over, but it's take your jump, go tell your story, make your movie. And you know, I was laying in bed the other night thinking about it and talking to my girlfriend. Mark's on here, but cite his words. He talked about the cavalry is not coming. There's all of my friends are saying, are waiting for their movies to be made by all of this outside approval, all of these systems that you have to break into. And I think there's so much freedom and wisdom in just fucking going for it, you know, and figuring out ways to do it. So this is the realization of that for me. And I'm so grateful to everybody here and the 30 plus people who really supported the vision throughout. Otherwise, it's like, great, get great actors, have a great writer, and go for it. But I'm just really thankful for this experience, and can't wait to make more movies. But I'm sick of myself yammering.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know. I'm thinking about like the kind of, you know, metaphorical village it took to make this movie, because I've been thinking a lot about over the course since we shot this movie, how easy it's been for me at times. I'm gonna like contradict what you said, like to be like, go make your movie, friends. And then also to recognize like we had to rely on a lot of people giving us their money, not only Duplass brothers, you know, and like places we got money, but individuals, you know, donating to a crowdfunding campaign. And I've just been thinking about the sort of, I do believe that anyone can do that, but the kind of I don't know, just collective kind of contribution that was required for this, and just being really grateful for that. Our family was a really big support. Our older brother was a big support in getting all of our family kind of on board. And then in terms of the movie, a takeaway, I don't know, just, you know, I think we seem to, it's my opinion, like with friends and stuff, I feel like we've had the strongest response to the movie. I hope teenagers love it, but from like people our age and older, you know, being like, this takes me back or whatever. So I hope it can just be a kind of like sweet little nostalgic look back that kind of gives a little honor and a little love to like what for some of us was like a really painful experience, you know. And kind of give teenagers a bit of respect, a bit less like mocking and kind of like snark from our current jaded selves, and like, you know, give a little love to like being naive and being all of those things.
Sarah's mentioned this once and then I'll stop, but I think it's worth retelling. Our grandpa was 85 years old and attended right before COVID shut everything down, a festival screening here in Portland. And grandpa was in a house of 300, 400 people. And afterward out on the street, he said, that took me back to my feelings during those teenage years and that first love experience.
In like 1950.
Right. So, I mean, this is, you know, Harper and Tilly on cell phones meeting at the food carts and all of 2020, you know, baked in. But 85-year-old Grandpa Ray was like, that got me. And these characters couldn't be further from him, you know. So I just love that we all have, most of us are lucky to have that experience, discovering love. And I think this movie, that's its nut. So.
Yeah. Anjini, what about you?
I think for me, and I really don't know if this is a good takeaway, but I'd like to think it is. Both in the world of Tilly and Harper's story and in our process of making the film, my biggest takeaway that I hope people also get is to just make mistakes. I think the whole film is about justifying mistakes and why it's important to fail and fuck up and learn from it. And I think that's what we all took away from making this movie. It was a crazy experience, and I feel like it was a series of failures that became really successful. So I hope that's what people get from it.
Yeah. Elise, what about you?
God, I've been thinking so much recently about something that is so Duplassian, which is the power of authenticity. And I think, you know, when we're writing stories, we get so intimidated, like we have to tell this really big thing and we have to make the world so big. And when I read Sarah's script, it was so authentic, and I hadn't seen teenagers portrayed in a real way. You know, I have teenage nieces and nephews, and it really hit me just how real it felt. And their vision of wanting to make something that was more true to life than what was currently available at the time. And I just think that there is so much power in that. And it can be really intimidating when you're, you know, starting out or when you're breaking into the industry, thinking that you have to make something really big, but you just don't. You can make authentic, real stories that are about these smaller moments that are much bigger because of that.
Yeah. What about you, Mark?
Well, just, you know, I agree with everything everyone said, particularly from a filmmaking perspective. But, you know, from an audience perspective, I would just say, you know, I have 2 kids, and I'm constantly looking for meaningful movies to watch, you know, with my 13-year-old, you know, and what does that mean now? And it's great. We can go watch I Am Greta and we talk about environmentalism, but on the narrative side, it is often difficult to find things that cross over for our interests. And I do think that this is a really interesting movie to watch, you know, if you're a teenager with your parents or with your family. I think it's really cool to be talking about these kinds of things and opening up these kinds of conversations. When I was 14, I was in a 1.5 year serious relationship. And it was this wild thing that no one really knew how to handle or talk about or deal with. And we obviously didn't have all the emotional skill sets to do it well, but it's probably one of the best things that ever happened to me to prepare me for marriage and being a grown up and learning how to validate people. And I don't see that often represented in cinema or as a way to create a desire for that, as a way to create this could be a good place for you, a good place to learn something, to grow as a human being. And there's something in this movie that I like about it. It creates a little space for that, and it lights a little candle for that. And I think that's something good for people to look to, you know, potentially share with their teenagers.
And I also want to know, what are you all working on next? What's next for you all? So I don't know if who wants to start. What's your next project?
I can start because I got one going right now. There's a docu-series that we made called The Lady in the Dale that is on HBO. In fact, the last episode is airing momentarily. So they're all streaming, and it's a really cool story that it kind of unfortunately went unsung and was a little bit erased from the history books, about Liz Carmichael, who in the 70s, she tried to create the 3-wheeled car. And it's a wild ride, and she is a definitely complex character who tried to do some crazy things getting this done. But was also a trans woman in the 70s and was vastly mistreated by the news at the time. And I think that it's unfortunately one of these stories that if she had been a cis white male, I think we would have already seen 5 movies made out of it, and we would have applauded what a complicated protagonist it was. But because Liz Carmichael was a trans woman in the 70s, she was erased from history, and no one knows this story. And it was luckily brought to us. I can't take the credit for finding it, and we were able to help bring it to light. And I think it's a really not only interesting story, but I think an important one.
Anyone else? Elise?
Yeah, so I have, for the past 7 years, have been writing a dystopia novel, and I've translated that into a TV series. It's a dystopia, actually, that I started writing before the pandemic, about a pandemic that wipes out all men. And it's kind of an exploration of, you know, women's rights and trans rights, and how society is kind of reformed after that. And so, yeah, translating that into a series, we'll see how it goes.
Anjini?
I have kind of a messy roster of stuff going on. I started my own production company a few months ago. So I'm producing a pilot that's coming out of that in the next few months. I just finished co-writing my first feature, which is currently with CAA. It's going out for sale this month. I'm working on another feature in another month. I think that's it so far.
That's a lot, so good.
Anjini is the hardest working person in Hollywood. She's amazing.
And she's a great director. Anj, can we
Yeah.
plug your short films? Are they on your website?
Oh gosh, yes, everything's on my website.
Check out Anjini's
What's your
website, which is, what is it?
It's my first name and my last name and the word films.com.
Yeah, if you need inspiration, just follow her.
Thank you.
What about you guys?
You go
We're
ahead.
both, I mean, we both kind of crank away at a lot of different stuff at times. Acting's kind of my main game. I've got a couple projects coming up that I'm preparing for. I'm writing something that I hope is my third and final micro budget, just because they take everything. And I'd like to do one more, but then call micro budgets over. So that's it for me.
Yeah, I'm working on. I'm just beginning a new script, so I'm kind of in that like that passion love phase that Mark was talking about, where I'm like, this is all that matters to me. I keep calling it to like friends. It's like it's sort of like a grown up young hearts, but like it's really dealing with mental health and like two people who are the perfect right people for each other, but they're both dealing with some issues that continue to make having a relationship really hard. And then I've got another project called Strongmen that I've kind of got on the set aside right now. I need to do some rewrites, but it's kind of a story about a group of adult brothers and their father, and a kind of, you know, like my spin on kind of toxic masculinity and the way that that damages everyone.
We're going to get that one made, and then people are going to go, Sarah wrote Young Hearts and wrote this, and
Right.
you just kind
Yeah,
of
it's
have
kind
to
of
say,
a
yeah, that's
dark
awesome.
kind of
It's so different.
It's different from this. So I don't know. I'm also like juggling like my children and just like trying to be a human right now. But yeah, I'm hoping those projects find a home at some point, and we get to keep making movies.
Well, thank you so much for being, you know, for joining us today. And like, we really, really like the film, and we want to support it as much as we can. And it's going to be available on a platform for a very long time. So anyone that wants to check it out, it's available on angelikaanywhere.com. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you, Denise. And can I just say how awesome Angelika Anywhere is, and the idea that, you know, when I was 18 years old, I came to New York to see the city, and I just sat at the Angelika and I watched every movie that was there, because there was no curation back then. There was no way to figure out. And I saw Hal Hartley movies, and I saw Parker Posey breaking out, and I saw all these crazy things. And the idea that you guys are now offering that type of curation for people to access, you know, from anywhere they want, it's very needed right now. Like, I love that I can sift through my streaming accounts and try to figure out what's going on. But like, what if I'm interested in independent film and I don't know like what to watch? Like, and I think what you're doing with curation, you know, along with other services, you know, like, I mean, honestly, there aren't that many. Like Sundance Now is doing it a little bit, you know, and Criterion does it. But I just think that's great, and I applaud you guys for doing it, and everybody should check it out.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you, everyone, and hope to see you soon with your next project.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.